Hey everyone, today I sat down with Anthony Ruggiano Jr. Many people know his father as Fat Andy. He was a made man for the Gambino crime family. Anthony Jr. as well is an associate of the Gambino crime family. Today Anthony talks about being born into the mafia. He also talks about meeting a lot of major mob figures while he was a young kid. He mentioned meeting John Gotti when he was 13 years old. He also talks about a murder that he was involved with. Anthony talks about how he ended up cooperating with the government. If this interests you, I got plenty more interviews like this, so please hit the subscribe button, and without further ado, let's get to it. All right, welcome back to the IOY podcast. Today I got a new guest on today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
My name's Anthony Ruggiano. I'm an ex-proposed member of the Gambino crime family, and I'm the son of Anthony Fat Andy Ruggiano, who was a made member of the American Mafia.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, I guess, we can kind of start, with your early life or, I guess, for the people that don't know who your father is, maybe we'll start with that, because that has a big part in your life, and how you got involved with the mafia.
Well, my father, in 1953, when my father was 26 years old, he became a made member of an organized crime family in New York City, which was run at that time by Albert Anastasia, who was known as the High Executioner. He was the head of Murders Incorporated. My father just got out of prison at the time, and he met my mother, and this was in 1953, and I was born the same year as my father becoming a made member. So I was pretty much born into that life. I was pretty much born into the mob, So growing up, my early years, my father had a great reputation. He was a captain in the Gambino family. Later on, Carlo Gambino became the boss after Albert Anastasia got assassinated. And then my father was under him, and then Paul Castellano became the boss, and later on John Gotti became the boss. But my father was in prison then. And my father, so growing up, my father had this big reputation. I really didn't know what he was. I just knew that when I used to go with him, like he would take me, he always owned bars, my father, because that's where he hung out. That was like his office. Like people go to their office in Manhattan, my father went to the bar. That's where his office was. And he had this guy, Pacey, who was his partner in the bars because they used his liquor license. So he always had bars with this guy named Pacey. All my life, I literally grew up in a bar. And I remember early on, I would go to these bars with him, and everybody would treat him with all this respect. And even though I was young, I felt it and I saw it. And they would like give me money, and I would like have the run of the place. And so I always knew he was kind of special, but I didn't know the reason. I didn't know the reason why. But I knew there was something going on that wasn't like what that was going on in my friends' houses, because their fathers went to work. They were truck drivers. They worked, they were carpenters. They were like all legitimate guys. Even my uncles were all legitimate people. So even when I stood by my cousins' houses, even my uncles were different. My father's own brothers were different. So, and my father, it was funny because, when you're a kid and you go to school, they ask, what your father does for a living, so they used to ask me that. And I was a kid, I was like 8, 9 years old. And I would ask him like, Dad, what do you do for a living? Because, we're having this thing in school tomorrow about, what our fathers do for a living. And he would tell me that he worked in a dry cleaners, because he had a guy that owned dry cleaners, and he was on the books in the dry cleaners, like a no-show job, for his taxes. And I knew at that young age, I knew that really wasn't true, but I didn't know what was true. And I ran with it, and I went to school, and that's what I would say. But inside, but I always knew that really wasn't what was going on, but I still didn't understand what was going on. And I would tell my teacher, my father works in the dry cleaners, knowing that it wasn't true, but I didn't know what the truth was. So, I don't know, when I was like 12 or 13, because back then in New York in the 60s, we all hung out on our block. That was the thing. Everybody stood on their blocks, and everybody stood in the summer. Everybody was outside on their stoops, like you see in the movies, them old movies of New York. That's how it was when I was a kid. So I was always on my block. I played stickball on my block. I played everything on my block. But when I was 12 or 13, I started venturing off my block. Because now I'm older, and I'm venturing out into the neighborhood. And I used to hang out by this pizzeria. And my father knew at that time I was venturing out into the neighborhood. And that's when I found out who he was, or what he was. Not who he was, but what he was. because I would go to this pizzeria when I was like 13, and when I would go to the corner, there would be older guys there, and they would see me, and I would hear them tell each other like, "That's Fat Andy's son," and that's when I started realizing what was going on. They would say, "That's Fat Andy's son," and they would point me out to the other guys that were there, the older guys. And they started the older guys started sort of rubbing up against me, like being friendly to me to get like with my father, you know what I mean? Like they would take me in their cars and, they would treat me special. But that was only just to get, maybe get an introduction to my father or whatever. So that was the beginning of my knowledge of who he was. And then through them older guys and through venturing out into the neighborhood, I found out he was a wise guy. And then I started understanding, I started getting little bits and pieces about the mafia. And then that's when he took me around to all the social clubs. That was the first time I ever met John Gotti, was when I was 13. Being now I was hanging out in the neighborhood. In my neighborhood, there was a lot of social clubs, and a lot of mob families had clubs in Ozone Park. Like almost every family had a club in Ozone Park. So my father took me to the clubs and introduced me to the Genoveses, and and like, "This is my son. If you see me in the neighborhood, look out for him," because he didn't want them to hurt me, or he didn't want me to get hurt. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I did anything stupid, he wanted them to know I was his son, so they wouldn't fuck me up. You know what I mean? So he started introducing me to these people, and then he brought me to the Bergen Fish Club, and that's when the first introduction I had with John Gotti. He introduced me to John, and "This is my son. If you see him in the neighborhood, look out for him." And and pretty much went from there. And then naturally, once I started hanging out in the neighborhood, I started picking up bad habits. Now I knew my father was a criminal. Then there was a couple of articles about him in the newspaper, and I read them, and and I sort of started falling in love with that lifestyle, the respect. Like I was Fat Andy's son. I started losing. Actually, really losing my own identity at that point in time. That's the best way I could explain it, because I wanted to be him then. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be me no more. And I really didn't know who I was at the time, but I knew I wanted to be him. I wanted to be like him. He became my idol. My father was my idol. And then actually, so now I started getting in trouble on my own. I started smoking weed. It was the 60s, smoking weed, drinking beer, taking LSD, all that bullshit that went on in the 60s. But I didn't know if I wanted to be a hippie or a gangster yet. I was still confused. Yeah.
So but you, with your identity, like, how did you, is that what you just kind of became? Because like you said, you wanted to be kind of like your dad, but at the same time, you still kind of wanted to find out who you were. But like, how did you maintain your own reputation? Did you try to, or did you just kind of follow in his light?
That's a very good question. I followed in his life, but I still had to be my own person, even in that life. Mm-hmm. So I started getting a little violent. I guess I started fighting. I learned my father taught us how to box. I started, started putting together my own little crew of kids I grew up with, like in my neighborhood, tough kids. They started hanging out with me, and we started doing our own thing. We started like playing hooky from school, and we just started doing our own thing. And so I started getting a little reputation on my own, because I had these couple of guys I ran around with, and we people in the neighborhood knew like not to fuck with us. Like I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, Freddie and Louie, they were brothers. Their father grew up with my father. His name was Freddie the Mayor. He was like, that was his nickname, Freddie the Mayor, because he was short and he looked like LaGuardia, the old mayor of New York, when they were kids. So they used to call him the Mayor, Freddie the Mayor. And he knew me all my life, the father. They lived in another neighborhood at the time. They lived in Ridgewood. So later on in years, when I was about 15 or 16, he moved into Ozone Park. And I was standing on the corner one day by the pizzeria with my father's godson, Little Joe, who was passed away now. But he was a dangerous kid, Little Joe. He was really dangerous. Later on, he became a murderer. I mean, this kid was a dangerous kid. And we were standing on the corner, and this kid, Louie, and his father, Freddie, who I knew, was driving down 101st Avenue. And the father saw us and said to his son, "You know those kids?" And the son said, "Yeah, they're crazy. I don't go around them." And the father pulled up. And the son said to the father, "You know them?" He said, "Yeah, that's Andy's son." And he got out and we saw, "Hey, Freddie, what are you doing?" The mayor. And he said, "This is my son, Louis." And he introduced us to his son, Louis. And needless to say, maybe 8 years later, Louis and I went to prison together. Yeah. So, so we started getting our own little reputation, but I was still Fat Andy's son. You know what I mean? I wanted to be, and now, then my whole life became about, I wanted to be, in that life. And when I was 16, I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of high school. I was bad. I was a truant. I was never going, and they suspended me. And my father was upset because he didn't want me in the street. What father really wants their son in the street? I mean, at that point in time, he really preferred me to stay in school. I was 16, but I hated school. I wanted to be in the street. I wanted to be with him. And so my uncle came over the house. His older brother came over the house. We had to sit down in my kitchen, me and my Uncle Frank, who was my father's older brother, and my father. And my Uncle Frank said, "What are you going to do? Listen, this kid's like us. He ain't going to go back." Because my Uncle Frank was like a Shylock, but he was a legitimate guy. But he Shylocked money on his job. He was a knock-around guy, my Uncle Frank. He goes, "What are you going to do? This kid's like us. What are you going to do with him?" So my father looked at me and he said to me, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, I want to go to work." So he says to me, "All right, I'll get you in the Bricklayers Union." So now back then, the Bricklayers Union was a big union because they built a lot of stuff with brick. No more today, And I said, "I don't want to be no fucking bricklayer." He said, "What?" I said, "I don't want to be a bricklayer." He goes, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go to work for you." And I remember like it was yesterday. I got goosebumps. And he sat back in the chair and he looked at me and he tilted his head to the side and then he leaned in and he took his finger and he tapped it on the table and he goes, "Okay, just remember one thing." He said, "I'm going to put you to work." He goes, "But working for me, going to jail is all part of the job." And now here I am, I'm 16. Now here's how fucked up my head is. I'm 16 and it was fine. It was okay. I was okay with that. Right. He was okay with that. My uncle was okay with that. And I was okay with that. And I said, "All right, if that's the deal, that's the deal." And the next day, he took me to this place, this club out in Long Island on Merrick Road that was run by this guy, Philly the Pimp. He wasn't really a pimp, but that was his nickname. I don't know why. Maybe he liked, hookers or whatever, but his nickname was Philly the Pimp. And he had a blackjack game, and that was my first illegal job. They put me to work in that blackjack game, and that's when it started, and I'll just tell you one quick story before about 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, my father took me with him. He said it was a Friday, and he goes, "Come on, I want you to take a ride, man. I got to go to the 5 o'clock lounge." This was a bar in Brooklyn on Church Avenue. Because I gotta go there and see somebody. I said, "All right." So we get in the car, we go to Brooklyn, we walk into this bar. The bar's packed Friday night, mobbed. The bar's mobbed. We walk in, we walk up to the bar. The bartender knows my father, of course. My father orders a drink, even though I'm 16, 17. I'm drinking. You know what I mean? Like they didn't. He gets me a drink. Me and my homie was sitting at the bar, we're drinking. People are coming over. "Hey, Andy, what's going on? Hey, how are you?" Boom, boom, boom. About an hour later, maybe a little hour and a half later, now the bar was packed when we first looked in. Now my father looks at me. He goes, "Look around." He goes, "You notice anything?" So I look around and go, "Yeah, a lot of people left." I said, "It was crowded when we got here." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You know why they left?" I said, "No, I don't. How the fuck do I know why they left? They left." He says, "They left because I'm here."
Damn.
And I looked at him. He goes, "They left because I'm here." He goes, "Because they don't know if I'm here to hit somebody, kill somebody, shake somebody down. They left because I'm here." He says to me, "Is that how you want to live?" Now, he tried to discourage me. He thought that was going to discourage me, but in reality, I loved it. It worked the complete opposite. Like, I was like so fucking impressed, like, holy shit. When I realized what he was saying and I realized that that's what happened, I was like, oh shit, I want that. Now I'm completely lost. You know what I mean? Now the ego's out here, and like, wow, I want that respect. I want people to fear me like that. I was like full of it. Even now when I think about it just blew me away. He thought it might discourage me, but it had the complete opposite effect on me.
To
when
a
he told
kid,
me,
to a
yeah,
kid, that's
I'm
like,
the
holy
president,
shit.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fucking whole bar emptied out. Like, it was just me, him, and the bartender, like almost, and maybe 2 or 3 stragglers. That was it, you know?
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, crazy. It was crazy. And, so then I started running with him. Then he started to school me, then it was game on after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what were your duties, I guess, after that, for, the family? Like, cause you weren't, obviously you didn't get made or nothing like that, but you were
Uh,
proposed. But, at this
yeah,
time,
yeah.
at this specific time, what was your duties?
Just, it was all about making money. I had a couple of kids with me. I had my own little crew with me. My father put us all on record, he put us all on record, that we were with him. I had my friend Sal, my kid Frankie, my cousin Little Joe. We had a really good crew. This kid Robin Angle. We had a nice little crew, and we started, running around. We started, take right. And back then it was a different. Today it's a different. Today I don't even know how to mob makes money today with all the technology. Like when I was a kid, now you're talking 1970, 71. We were selling cigarettes. We were writing numbers. We were working in crap games because there was no casinos. So we were all working in dice games. We were going to the Copacabana. We were going to all these nightclubs in Manhattan. The discos started opening up. So it was all about making money and partying. That's really, honestly, that's all it was about. Make money, party. Make money, party. Make money, party. Hanging out. I started hanging out with my father on Mobster. She started taking me to the Ravenite. I met on Nell Della Croce at the Ravenite. That was my first introduction to him. He was the underboss of the Gambino family. And it was just all about making money. Anything, leaks, chop shops, stealing cars, stolen car rings. I started getting arrested. I got arrested for policy in the number office. I got arrested robbing a liquor warehouse. I got that, and then I wind up going to prison. Committing crimes all day. From when I was 16 to I went to prison when I was 40. We committed crimes every day. The mob commits crimes every day. You wake up in the morning and it's all about how am I going to, it's all about the money.
Right.
So I was doing everything to make whatever I could make money with. And then when I was 23, I went to prison for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And my father had a big party for me in Manhattan in the Ravenite Social Club. They had a party, went there with suits and ties on. They had a party like I was going to Harvard. Like I was going like here I am. I'm going to prison. I'm 23. I'm going to jail for years. And they're having this party for me like it's New Year's Eve. Hey, pat me on the back, hugging me, trying to school me, telling me about all, do this when you go to jail and do that when you go to jail. And it was like a festive party because I was going to prison, and I went to prison. I did 2.5 years. I got married right before I went to prison. I even married into the mob. I married Happy Mayoni. He was a member of Murders Incorporated. He had gotten the electric chair with Lepke and all those guys back in the day. He was a made member he was in the same family as my father, Happy Mayoni, the Dasher, Abe Rellis. They were all in Murders Incorporated. I married his great niece, Alice Mayoni.
Yeah.
She married her. I had a son with her, my son, Anthony. So I went to prison, and I went to prison when I was 23. I got out when I was 26, and I went right back to work. Right back into the street.
Yeah, what was the mindset coming out? I guess, it was just because, like you said, it was, going to jail as part of the job, so obviously that was just, whatever, I guess, at the time, but then you came out and, you're ready to get back to business, like the prison mindset, didn't change you at all, or like did it have any impact on you those 3 years or 2.5 years?
No, it didn't even, honestly, it didn't even faze me. I knew, it was like, it was just, it did, first of all, I did a good bit. I had everything I needed in there. I had COs bringing me marijuana, bringing me Chinese food. They were all on the take back then. So we had the run of the whole prison, So, I mean, no, it didn't have any impact on me about me like wanting to go to work and I don't want to be here no more. At that point, it didn't. Years later, it did, but not that time. That time, no. That time I was 23. I was a kid. I was in good shape. I was fighting. I was tough. Like it didn't even faze me. I was getting visits. I just kicked back and read a book, and I ate good. I exercised. No, it really didn't. I think it affected my family more than me. But I came out, when I got out, I came out running. I came out, running. I came out. I went right back to the Ravenite, to Mulberry Street. A month later, I opened up an after-hour joint in South Ozone Park. I hit the ground running as soon as I got out of prison. So my father was going back and forth to Florida at the time. So I started going back and forth to Florida with him, and was right back at it again. Only this time I was doing a little cocaine at the time, and that sort of started to become an issue with me.
Yeah. How did you get introduced to that?
That's a good story. So back in my father. So I don't know if you ever heard of Jay and the Americans, Jay Black and the Americans. They were a group he just had passed away. They were a famous group. They had a lot of hits in the 60s. Carry Me a My, Let's Lock the Door and Throw Away the Key. I mean, they used to call him The Voice. He got introduced to my father through my cousin Vera. He was in trouble with a lot of bookmakers. He was a gambler. And my father straightened out all these beefs for him, and he wound up being with my father. So through him, my father got into the music business with his partner Tony Lee, and they started promoting concerts. And he was doing some shows in Puerto Rico in 1972, and he took me with him. Now I was 19 years old at the time. I'm with this guy. He had a record in the top 10, This Magic Moment. I mean, he was still very popular. We go to Puerto Rico. He's got a suite. There's all groupies up there, girls all over the place. I'm with this guy. He's a celebrity. Well, that's how I got lost into in the life. So I walked in their room one night, and they were all around this table. And I walked up to the table, and there was white powder on the table. And I said to them, "What's that?" And they said, "It's Coke. You want to try it?" And one of them handed me a straw, and I tried it. I was 19. I did a few lines, and I liked it. And I went back to New York. Now it's in the 70s. The discos, everybody's blowing Coke. I mean, all the wise guys. I'm in these clubs. We're all wise guys, captains. We're all blowing Coke. We're drinking. Girls all over the place. Like I said, we're running the places. We never waited on lines. We were like princes of the city. It was just, back then it was just like we owned the city. We ran the city, and I started doing Coke with them. And then when I got out of jail in 80, a little later on, then I started freebasing. That's when it got a little crazy, when I started smoking it. Somebody introduced me to that. And then what happened was, so my father was in Florida, and he was doing a lot of stuff in Florida, and I was going back and forth. I was in New York running his number business, and I was going back and forth. And then my father got arrested in Florida by the feds, and he got 40 years. He got convicted, and they gave him 40 years. And while he was in prison, that's when John Gotti became the boss. Paul Castellano got killed. They killed Paul Castellano, and John Gotti became the boss when my father was in prison. And I had a very good relationship with John. I knew him for a long time. My father knew him since John was a kid. So my father knew John since John was a teenager. So I had a very good relationship with him. And my father's partner, Tony Lee, was like my second father. And I got clean. I went. They paid for me to go to treatment. I went to treatment, and I got clean. I'm clean 34 years now. I haven't had a drink or a drug or a joint in 34 years. They paid for the treatment, and when I got out of treatment, I went to see John Gotti. On Saturdays, he eats lunch on Saturdays in his club, the Bergen Hut Fish Club, and I went to see him, and we go outside, and he says to me, "What's going on?" He goes, "You need anything?" He goes, "I don't want you to get stressed out. Would you need anything?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a car." So he went inside his office, and he made a call. He came out, he goes, "Okay, go to 84th Street and Attica. There's a car lot there. Go in there. Ask for a guy named Anthony. They're waiting for you." I said, "All right." I go to the car lot. I walk in. This guy's there. I said, "You Anthony?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "John sent me." He goes, take whatever car you want," he said. So I said, "Oh, all right." I walked around. I looked around. I found this beautiful, back in the day, white 4-door Bonnie. Oh, beautiful. White saddle interior. Gorgeous. So I said, "I'll take that one." So I took the Bonnie. I went back to the club. He hands me money. He hands me $2,000, and he says to me, "I want you to come here every Saturday with $100. Don't disappoint me." I said, "All right, thanks." I leave. I go back the next Saturday, give him 100. I go back the next Saturday, give him 100. I go back the third Saturday. He goes, come on, take a walk. We take a walk. And he says, how much you owe me? He goes, you got that beat? I said, I don't know if I got a beat, but I'm staying away from it. I said, I'm done. Now I'm working. I'm getting my respect back. I'm getting healthy, and he says, okay. He goes, how much you owe me? I said, oh, you're 1,700. He goes, all right, keep it as a gift. He told me. The guy, people always try to get me to say bad things about him, but he was always good to me, and he was always good to my family. He loved my mother to death. He loved my mother. He loved my son. My son would go in his office and sit on his lap and mess his hair, pull his tie. He would laugh, he just had so much respect and love for us because, we were Fat Andy's family, and he respected my father. Like my father, when they were kids, John Gotti and all these guys in East New York, my father was the gangster. So that he was like, they looked up to him. They wanted to be Fat Andy. Because, like I looked up to him when I was a kid. They looked up to him when they were kids, because he was like the gangster in East New York. Right. Fat Andy, Jeannie Gotti used to tell me, John's brother used to tell me, when me and John were kids and we met your father and we ran across your father, the neighbor, we didn't know if we should shake his hand or duck.
Yeah, I'm sure, man, because you just never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
So, and now, and that's it. Then now I got clean, and my father was in prison. Now I got this relationship with John Gotti, which only, and then I started. That's when I sort of, I guess, I don't know, you could say, if I started peaking in that life, because I started making serious money. I had a nice crew of guys. We were making a lot of money. I had a lot of illegal stuff going on, some legal stuff going on, legitimate stuff going on. I was just making big money. But when you're in the street and you're making money like that, you spend it as fast as you get it because you think it's never going to end. Right. And then when my father was away, I had gotten arrested again. I got indicted in 1989. In 1990, I got indicted by the Queens Organized Crime Task Force. They indicted me for running a number ring, a big policy ring, like a lotto sort of type thing. And I went to prison. I got 1 1/3 to 4, and I went back to prison. That's when it sort of, because now I had a son. My son was 8 years old. I guess that bid sort of like, I don't know, it bothered me a little. That one bothered me because my son, when are you coming home? When are you coming home? When are you coming? Now I'm in my 30s, and while I was away, John got arrested. That's when John got arrested with Sammy the Bull and Frankie Loke. And then while I was away, Sammy the Bull cooperated. John got convicted. My father, so now I came out in 92. My father's away. John Gotti's away. People that looked out for me, people that I looked up to. My father's partner, Tony Lee, had cancer at the time. He was terminally ill. But that's all I knew. That's all I knew. That's all my father knew. My father wanted me in it. They proposed me to get straight to become a maid. To get made. I was going running around for the family. I was bringing messages to Philly to Joey Molina, the boss of Philadelphia, because I knew him. He was away with my father. We made friends. I was going to Philly to see him, bringing him. And people start. I had a lot of respect. People trusted me. I was making a lot of money. And, I was in it. And, and then, went from being a kid working in a blackjack game to, committing murders, you know what I mean? Like, then, it started, it started getting violent in 89. I committed a murder. We killed my brother-in-law, and it got hairy for a while. My father was a murderer. I found, my father has bodies, and it's funny because my father was such a loving, like a teddy bear. And, and then when you hear these stories about him, like he hit a guy, he chopped up a guy with an axe and, whoa, but, he was a killer. My father was a killer. He had a couple of murders under his belt. John was a killer. People ask me, how did you feel so comfortable around these people knowing that, they were murderers or killers? Back then it didn't even faze me. Even when I was killed, even when I was involved in murders, it didn't even faze me. It wasn't even, it was just, they call it work. In the mob, they call murder work. He did a lot of work. He did a piece of work. Even now, sometimes it bothers me, sometimes it doesn't. But so when I got out in '92, I was still making a lot of money. I took over this big vending company. My father had me running around. My father, I was trying to get straightened out, and and then I got arrested again. I got indicted again by New York State. I got indicted again, and I went to prison. And while I was in prison, I got indicted by the feds in Florida. So I had a 2-4, and I wound up getting another 10 years. And that's when I really started like looking at myself and looking at my life and like taking a real good look at my own, myself and who I became, and things started to change. Then my thought pattern started to change. I guess when I think about it, maybe I was developing a conscience at that time. Like I never had a conscience. I lost it somewhere along the line. And then I started maybe developing one, I guess, because I was clean then. I wasn't doing no drugs. I wasn't drinking. I was sort of working on myself. I went into a 12-step program. I started working on myself a little bit, looking at some stuff that, some issues I had, because I felt like at that point, I really didn't want to live that way, and like if I would have told my father how I was thinking and feeling, he would have thought I lost my fucking mind. He would say, "What are you kidding me? What are you crazy?" But that's, I was in this jail cell in Attica. I was in Attica, which like is a bad prison. I was in there because I had a federal detainer, and I'm sitting there, and like there was cockroaches in the cell, and I'm sitting on the bed and I'm looking at these cockroaches, and I'm going like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, is this going to be the rest of my life? Now I'm in it. Now I'm looking at, now when this is over, I'm going to have 14 years in prison. My kids, my daughter, I had a daughter then, I got remarried. My daughter was 3, my son was 13. I'm going to miss my sons, all my son's teens. My daughter's going to be 12 when I get out. She's 3 now, and I started taking a look at myself.
Yeah. Because all that time was just, gone, that you could have spent with them, So yeah, I would imagine it would hit you very hard, only to be around for this little time, and then you get locked up. You get a taste of, being around the kids and everything, and then it gets all taken away, because that's going to be the main factor, and really wanting to change, and then your sober mind as well. I think that's true. You kind of develop more of a conscience and more of a reality when you have a clear head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what sort of started happening. I sort of like when I hit a bottom with the drugs and I got clean, that's sort of what it was happening with the lifestyle. I sort of like starting to hit a bottom, So I wind up doing 8 years and 3 months. While I was in there, then my father passed away. My father got out of prison. He did 13 years. He got out of prison. 18 months later, he died. 18 months. So now I'm in prison. So now when I got out of prison in 04, everybody that I loved was gone. John Gotti was gone. My father was gone. Tony Lee was gone. But I was still in it. I still wasn't willing to give it up. They were still going to straighten me out. I got sent for by a captain in the Gambino family. He told me, you're going to get made. We're just going to have the ceremony. You can do whatever you want. And I didn't want to tell them no, because I didn't want them to catch a delusion on me, because I knew where the bodies were buried, and I knew a lot of shit. So I didn't want anybody catching a delusion on me. So I, said, yeah, that's fine. Let me, and so I was going to get made again. I was going to get made when I got out in '04. And, it's like divine intervention. Every time I was going to get made, I got arrested. In the 90s, I was going to get made. I got arrested. I went to prison. In the early 90s, 91, when I went to jail. Now I'm out. It's '04. After doing all that time, I'm out. And they sent for me and tell me I'm going to get made again. They're just waiting for it to. They told me you're everybody's equal. If you got to go on sit downs, go on. The whole city knows. You're going to get treated like a wise guy. The only thing is that we didn't have the ceremony yet to make it official, and we're going to have the ceremony around Christmas time. This was in July. I said, Christmas? Why do you want to wait all the way to Christmas? He said that because that's what Jackie the Nose wants to do. They want to wait for Christmas and do a whole bunch of guys at once. You're one of the guys, but you could go on sit down, everybody's equal. I said, all right. A week later, I got arrested for murder.
Damn.
Got arrested for murder by the feds. Like I was outside my son's house and I was sitting on a bench, and the next thing I knew, I was surrounded by FBI agents, and they arrested me for a RICO, with a murder and a bookmaking and murder involved.
So, when that happened, what kind of was going through your head, when, they had, because then they point a gun at your head and everything, you were just, kind of chilling on your
Yeah,
outside, with your eyes closed, and you open your
yeah.
eyes and
There's a
they're,
gun right in my note. You know that story? Yeah, there was
yeah, yeah, I heard
I,
that.
I was I was actually going to a wedding that night. My cousin's son Robert was getting married that night, and I went to my son's house to pick my son up to take him back to Long Island so we could all go to the wedding together. Me and my second wife and my daughter and my son. And I was sitting on the bench. It was a nice sunny day out, and I put my cell phone on the side, and I just was laying down on the bench with my eyes closed, taking the son, waiting for him to come home. And the next thing I hear, "Don't move, you scumbag!" And I open up, and there's a gun right in my nose, and I'm surrounded. I go, and then someone from the back just grabbed me and lifted me up off the bench. And then they cuffed me up and they threw me in a van, and they were screaming at me, "You fucking murderer. We got you now, you fucking murderer. We'll show you want to murder, you and your fucking family want to murder people." And they were screaming at me, and they took me in and they charged me with the murder, and I don't, like, this FBI agent gave me his card. And I never, and throughout the years, they would give me cards. I would throw them out. Like, cooperating was never a thought in my mind. Like, I would never. But for some reason, I held on to this guy's card. I don't know why I did it at the time. Maybe he was nice to me. He gave me a sandwich. He took me out to go to the bathroom. Because I had to go to the bathroom, and the marshals wouldn't take me out of the cell. And I said, "Listen, if you don't take me out of the cell, I'm going to piss in the cell." I said, "There's no toilet bowl in here. You got me in this cell. There's nothing in here." It's like I was like in a cage,
Right.
would it look like just a little bench. So he took me out to the men's room. I went to the bathroom. He brought me a sandwich. I don't know. Maybe he was nice to me. I don't know. Whatever. I kept his card.
And
I got out on
go
bail.
ahead.
I got out on $3 million bail. I was under house arrest, and and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I guess, like I just, nobody was looking out for me. Like, my father was dead. His partner Tony Lee was dead. John Gotti was dead. It was just a different world. The mob was different. I couldn't go to work. My wife was the only one working, paying the bills. She was paying all the bills. I had the ankle bracelet on. Nobody was calling me. Nobody was looking out for me. I reached out for help. People told me no. I mean, and for a year I stood home, and then I would pick up the phone to call up the FBI, and I would hang it up, and I would pick it up, and I'd hang it up. I could never bring myself to make that call. And then about a year later, into being arrested, waiting to go on trial, I had some legal stuff going, and I had this lawyer this mob lawyer look into some stuff for me, and they called me, and they told me, "Listen, man, you need to call the government because these people are going to throw you under the bus. You're going to be the fall guy here for this murder. You need to call the government." I said, "What are you, fucking crazy? I can't do that." They said, "Listen, you need to call the government because these people are going to throw you under the bus." So the next day, it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. The next day, my wife was going to work, and I took that FBI agent's card that I saved, and I gave it to her because I couldn't call. I couldn't do it. I couldn't make the call. And I gave her the card, and I go, "Listen, when you get to work, call that number and tell the guy that answers the phone to come to the house to see me." So she took the card, and she went to work, and she called, and they came to my house, and I cooperated. I gave it up. I gave it all up. That was the only way that I could totally surrender and give it up, to get out of it. If I didn't cooperate, I would have never got out of it, and I probably would have spent the rest of my life in jail. And for what? For what? For what? And I cooperated, and here I am. And I cooperated, and and I didn't cooperate and waste, and become a fuck up. I cooperated and I made a decision when I cooperated that I was going to do some positive stuff, that I was going to try to help people, not make the same mistakes I make, not go through the things I went through, and that's what I did. I cooperated. I went back to school. I became a counselor. I went to work in a drug treatment center. You know, and I made changes. I made changes that I never thought were possible. I made changes that I didn't think I had the intelligence to make because, you know, you got to understand, I had no education. I had no living skills. My father never taught me how to use a screwdriver or a hammer. I knew nothing. You know, I didn't know how to fix anything. I didn't know how to build anything. You know, all I knew how to do was be a violent criminal. That's all I knew. That's what I was. I was a violent criminal from the time I was 16 to the time I called up the FBI, or my wife called up the FBI. You know, that's all I knew. I didn't know how to do anything but commit crimes, to run bookmaking businesses, number businesses, credit card fraud, stolen car rings, crap games, dice games. You know, that's all, after hour joints. That's all I knew. How to extort people's businesses. You know, I extorted a vending company. You know, a guy owned a vending company. I took over the whole vending company and chased him out of New York. I had to plead guilty to that. That's who we were, you know, and I was tired of it, you know, and now, I was never content. I say this all the time because it's the truth. You know, when I was living that lifestyle, making all crazy money, you know, living large, you know, I was never content. I never had enough. I never had enough of anything. If I had 10,000, I wanted 20,000. If I had one girl, I wanted two girls. I was never content. You know, now I'm broke, and you know what? I'm content. I worked this week 3 12-hour shifts in a detox. You know, I'm working on some stuff. I just did a show for Netflix. You know, I just was out in LA. I did a show for Larry Mezzer on Mob TV.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
yeah, I'm negotiating now with a guy from LA. We're trying to get a reality show off the ground. You know, so I got some good stuff going on in my life, you know, and you know, so it's all about, you know, maybe I could help somebody along the way and I can earn a living. You know, I don't have to worry about going to prison anymore. I don't have to hurt nobody, you know, and I'm content. You know, I'm sitting here right now. I'm sitting here right now at my dining room table, and right here to my left, by my right here, my cat is stretched out on the table, just like looking at me on her paw, like this, just like looking at me, like full of this love in her face. You know, like what's better than that?
Right. No, I hear you. I got 2 cats, bro.
Yeah, exactly. People laugh at me when I tell them that. But so that's what it's all about today. You know, it took me a long time to get to that point. You know, it took me a long time to get to that point, but I got to it. And you know, do I miss my old life? Sometimes I do. If I say I didn't miss it, I'd be a liar. You know, I miss the action. I miss the money. You know, I miss the respect that we got. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, I spent 14 years in prison. You know, I missed a lot of my kids growing up. My father died when I was in prison. I have no closure with his death. I never went to his funeral. You know, I go to a grave and I look at grass. You know, I spoke to him on the phone the night before he died, and then I called back the next day. He was dead. You know, it's just what it is.
Yeah. No, I mean you really went through it, man. I mean, you really had, you know, that life. You were born into it, so like you said, that's why you didn't have all these other skills. You just knew how to be a criminal, you know what I mean? So now you were given, you know, an opportunity, you took it, and you were able to, you know, make something of your life and do something that you really like to do, you know what I mean, and that you really enjoy doing. Now you can help people, you know what I mean? So that's a really good thing, you know, and it's really good that you can make money for it too, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
then, I mean, because you need it to survive. We all do, you know?
I need to pay my rent, right?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, no, for real. I mean, and
Yeah.
you know, it's good, you know, that you can do something and that you like to do and get paid for it, you know what I mean? Because, you know, I mean, I think, you know, you're a really good guest, you know, I mean, I think
I,
that, you know, I mean, I've seen your YouTube channel. You got, you know, like a little podcast too that you do like
yeah,
5 to 10 minute clips and stuff. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can go on for hours and shit, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
listen. I was in the street a lot of years. I knew
yeah.
everybody. You know, I'm doing my first official Reform Gangster podcast on June 11th. My first guest is going to be Michael Francis. He's
Damn.
him and I are very good friends.
You guys meeting up or
No,
on
no,
Zoom?
L.A. He's out in L.A. We're not going to meet up. I'm going to be in New York. He's going to be in L.A. But we will meet
Yeah.
up. I just did his. I did his show too a while ago.
I know, I watched it, and
Yeah,
I watched the whole thing, and
yeah.
he actually did comment back to me. I was like, "Great interview, man," and I'm gonna be doing one with, Anthony next week, And he's like, "Oh, good to hear, my friend." And I was like,
Yeah,
"Damn, he actually has all them
yeah,
followers." And he messaged back.
yeah. No, he's a good guy like that. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
He's very helpful with me. He looks out for me. He's a good mentor. He's been at this a long time. He made a lot of changes. He's like me. We come from the same place. His father was a gangster. His father and my father were best of friends. Him and I come out of the same era. We come out of the same era, so we have a lot of things in common, and we identify with a lot of things. Him and I. Mm.
yeah. So that's a perfect guest to have for your first one of all fucking people,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's really good.
definitely.
So that you got a lot of good things in the works. You know what I mean? So, like you said, before we started this, you really want to be able to get your story out there. Somehow. I mean, through the Netflix, through Larry. Larry's a
Yeah,
great guy too. I've had him
yeah,
on my show multiple times.
yeah,
So that's another good way to get it out there, man. But just keep
yeah,
pushing, keep doing. I mean, if you plan, like you said, if you plan on doing that podcast, I think you'll do great at that. Because like I said, you're a great guest. You just keep going and going and going. I ain't have to say nothing.
yeah, yeah.
but,
Well, once
but I
once I
appreciate it.
get on and it's all true. I don't make anything up. It's everything with. It's all true.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know, man.
I don't
Because
have to make stories up.
yeah, you're right. I mean, because you were there, you witnessed everything. You know what I mean? And I've heard a bunch of your interviews, man. They're always the same. I mean, that's how I knew all those other stories and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but I
All right.
appreciate you coming on, and I'll
My
hit
pleasure.
the unrecord on here. Let me end it real quick. Then we could talk. Well, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Please comment. Let me know what you liked about this interview. I got plenty more like this coming, so please hit subscribe. And thank you so much.